Imagine waking up in the morning with a clear plan, only to find yourself scrolling endlessly, rearranging your desk, or making yet another cup of coffee. Hours slip by, and your to-do list remains untouched. Why does this happen even when you know it's hurting your progress? What if procrastination is not simply laziness, but a coded message from your mind, revealing something deeper about your inner world? In this video, we're going to peel back the layers of procrastination, not to shame it, but to understand the hidden psychology that drives it and how you can finally break free. Most people think procrastination is a time management issue. If only you had the perfect planner, the perfect routine, or a louder alarm, you'd finally get things done. But psychologists have consistently shown that procrastination is not about time, it's about emotion. You don't put off tasks because you don't know how to plan. You put them off because of how you feel about them. Procrastination is an emotional regulation problem disguised as a productivity issue. This insight changes everything because it shifts the question from how can I be more disciplined to what am I feeling right now that makes me want to avoid this. When you sit down to work on something important, your brain instantly runs a threat assessment. If the task feels overwhelming, boring, ambiguous, or tied to a fear of failure, your nervous system interprets it as a source of discomfort. Your limbic system, the emotional part of your brain, starts to signal avoidance. This is not weakness. It's your body's natural attempt to protect you from pain, even if the pain is only imagined. That's why procrastination feels like temporary relief. You avoid the task, and the discomfort subsides for a while. But later, guilt and stress surge back stronger than before. This vicious cycle reinforces itself over time, creating the illusion that you just can't focus, when in reality you're stuck in an emotional loop. Consider how often procrastination masks perfectionism. You don't start the project because you fear it won't be perfect. You delay the phone call because you dread rejection. You postpone studying because you're afraid of confirming your own doubts about your ability. Procrastination then becomes a self-protective shield. It's easier to say, I didn't have time, than I tried and wasn't good enough. Understanding this can be liberating, because it reveals that behind procrastination, there's usually a vulnerable part of you seeking safety, not sabotage. Another layer of procrastination is rooted in identity. When a task challenges your sense of self, it triggers resistance. For instance, if you've always seen yourself as not a numbers person and you're asked to analyze data, your brain will resist, not because the task is objectively hard, but because it threatens your self-image. This identity-based resistance is powerful and often subconscious. By reframing how you see yourself, you reduce the emotional friction attached to the task. This is why small mindset shifts, like telling yourself, I'm learning to handle numbers instead of I'm bad at numbers, can dramatically lower procrastination. We also procrastinate because of temporal discounting, a concept from behavioral economics. Humans naturally value immediate rewards over future rewards. Finishing a report might bring you praise next week, but scrolling social media gives you a dopamine hit right now. Your brain is wired to choose the path of least resistance and highest immediate gratification. Recognizing this bias allows you to design your environment to counteract it. For example, making the desired task more immediately rewarding or reducing the attractiveness of distractions can tip the scales in your favor. The environment you work in also matters more than most people think. Clutter, noise, and digital distractions constantly hijack your attention. Each time you switch focus, your brain pays a cognitive cost. This cost accumulates and makes the original task feel even heavier. By reducing friction in your environment, turning off notifications, clearing your workspace, or using apps that block distracting sites, you're not just being tidy, you're lowering the emotional barrier to starting. The easier it is to begin, the more likely you are to continue. There's also the issue of unclear goals. Ambiguity breeds procrastination. When a task is vague, your brain can't easily visualize the steps, which triggers uncertainty and avoidance. Breaking tasks into concrete, bite-sized actions gives your brain a clear path forward. Instead of write a paper, try outline 3 main points or write the introduction paragraph. This not only reduces overwhelm, but also creates a sense of progress, which fuels motivation. Momentum is a powerful antidote to procrastination. Emotions, identity, environment, and clarity all interact in complex ways, making procrastination feel like a tangled web. But at its core, procrastination is your nervous system trying to avoid perceived pain. This means that self-compassion, not self-criticism, is the real starting point for change. Studies show that people who forgive themselves for procrastinating are less likely to procrastinate in the future. Why? Because guilt and shame create more negative emotion, which fuels more avoidance. Self-compassion breaks this loop. Instead of berating yourself, you acknowledge the difficulty, offer understanding, and gently re-engage with the task. Let's pause and examine a common scenario. You have an important deadline tomorrow. You feel stressed, but instead of starting, you binge-watch a show. In that moment, your brain chooses immediate relief over long-term benefit. Later, you feel worse and label yourself as lazy. But what if you recognize the stress as a signal, not a verdict? You could pause, breathe, and ask, what am I feeling right now? What am I afraid of? That small act of awareness creates space between the urge and the action. In that space, you can choose differently. Procrastination also has a social dimension. We live in a culture that glorifies constant productivity and punishes rest. This creates a paradox where you feel pressured to always be doing something, yet overwhelmed by the unrealistic expectations. Procrastination then becomes both a rebellion and a refuge. Understanding the societal layer of this behavior can help you release some of the personal blame. It's not just you. It's the environment you're operating in. By setting healthier boundaries and redefining productivity on your own terms, you reduce the emotional load that fuels procrastination. There's a deeper question hiding behind all of this. What if procrastination isn't just a barrier, but a message? Sometimes the tasks we avoid are out of alignment with our values, interests, or authentic goals. Chronic procrastination on a specific project may be your intuition signaling that something about it doesn't resonate. In these cases, the solution isn't more discipline, but honest reflection. Is this truly important to me? Or am I pursuing it out of fear, obligation, or someone else's expectation? Clarifying your why can either rekindle your motivation or permit you to let go. When you realize that procrastination can be a signal rather than a flaw, you unlock a new level of self-awareness. Instead of automatically forcing yourself through resistance, you can investigate the roots of it. Ask yourself, is this task aligned with my deeper purpose? Do I feel competent enough to do it? Am I tired, anxious, or overwhelmed? This kind of gentle inquiry can reveal hidden fears and unmet needs. Sometimes the real solution is not more willpower, but more rest, better boundaries, or a shift in perspective. By treating procrastination as data instead of a defect, you take back your power. One powerful psychological shift is to focus on starting rather than finishing. Finishing a big task can feel like standing at the base of a mountain staring at the summit. Starting, on the other hand, is simply taking one step. Research shows that the Zeigarnik effect, the mind's tendency to stay engaged with incomplete tasks, means that once you begin, your brain naturally wants to keep going. This is why the hardest part is the first few minutes. If you commit to working for just 5 minutes, you often find yourself continuing far longer than expected. Starting creates momentum, and momentum reduces fear. Another key tactic is to design your future self's environment. Because procrastination exploits your brain's preference for immediate comfort, you can outsmart it by making the desired action easier and the undesired one harder. Place your phone in another room. Prepare your workspace the night before. Set up automatic reminders that gently nudge you back to the task. These micro-adjustments remove friction and reduce the mental energy required to make good choices. They may seem small, but their cumulative effect can be transformative. It's also crucial to reframe how you experience discomfort. Most people see the tension of starting a task as a sign to avoid it. But what if you reinterpreted that discomfort as a normal part of growth? Athletes expect muscle soreness when training. Musicians expect awkwardness when learning a new piece. Similarly, the psychological discomfort of beginning a task is not a sign of incapacity, but of stretching your mental muscles. By welcoming this sensation instead of resisting it, you reduce its power over you. Self-talk plays a huge role here. Every time you label yourself lazy or undisciplined, you reinforce a negative identity that makes procrastination more likely. Instead, practice identity-based encouragement. Tell yourself, I'm the kind of person who starts even when it's uncomfortable, or I'm learning to handle tasks with calm and focus. This simple shift in language rewires your brain over time. You stop fighting against an old identity and start living into a new one. Another overlooked driver of procrastination is decision fatigue. Each unresolved choice drains your mental energy and increases avoidance. If you have to decide every day when, where, and how to work, your willpower erodes quickly. The solution is to automate as much as possible. Set fixed times for recurring tasks. Use routines as scaffolding so that action becomes the default rather than the exception. By reducing decisions, you free up energy to focus on execution. Emotion regulation strategies are equally important. Deep breathing, mindfulness, and short walks can calm your nervous system before you start. Writing down your worries can externalize them and reduce their grip. Some people find it helpful to use implementation intentions, a technique where you pre-decide how you'll respond to triggers. For example, if I feel the urge to check my phone, then I will take 3 deep breaths and return to my work. This creates a mental script that overrides automatic avoidance. Social accountability can also break the procrastination cycle. When you share your goals with a supportive friend or join a study group, you add an external layer of motivation. Humans are wired for connection, and knowing someone else is aware of your commitment can nudge you to follow through. The key is to choose accountability partners who encourage rather than shame you. Positive reinforcement builds momentum far better than criticism. It's worth noting that procrastination is not always harmful. Short delays can sometimes enhance creativity by giving your subconscious time to incubate ideas. The danger arises when delay becomes chronic and driven by fear. Learning to distinguish between strategic pauses and avoidance is a skill. If a break refreshes you and leads to better output, it's useful. If it leaves you feeling guilty and stagnant, it's probably procrastination. This awareness allows you to use time intentionally rather than reactively. To bring all these insights together, imagine your future self looking back on today. What would he or she thank you for doing right now? Visualizing your future self as a real person, someone you care about and want to support, can make long-term benefits feel more immediate. This mental bridge counters temporal discounting. You stop thinking only about the discomfort of the present moment and start feeling the gratitude of your future self. Ultimately, overcoming procrastination is not about becoming a perfect machine of productivity. It's about developing a healthier relationship with yourself, your emotions, and your goals. When you understand that procrastination is a form of self-protection, you can replace shame with curiosity, avoidance with gentle action, and fear with self-trust. Over time, these small shifts accumulate into profound change. You start to experience work not as a battlefield, but as an arena for growth and self-expression. Think of the energy you could reclaim if you no longer spent hours wrestling with avoidance. That energy could go into building skills, nurturing relationships, or creating something meaningful. The very act of mastering your response to procrastination strengthens your resilience in other areas of life. It teaches you how to face discomfort, regulate your emotions, and honor your deeper values, skills that extend far beyond any single task. If you've been battling procrastination for years, know that you're not alone and you're not broken. What you've been experiencing is a common human pattern rooted in our shared psychology. With awareness, compassion, and practical strategies, you can gradually shift this pattern. Each small victory, starting a task on time, breaking it into steps, practicing self-kindness, is evidence of your capacity to change. Now I'd like to hear from you. Which of these insights resonated with you the most? Do you see your own procrastination differently after hearing this perspective? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below, because your story might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. Remember, the journey to overcoming procrastination is also a journey of self-discovery. Each time you choose presence over avoidance, you strengthen your ability to live intentionally. That is a skill worth cultivating for a lifetime. If you found value in this video, give it a like to help others discover it, and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the psychology behind everyday behaviors. Together, we can transform procrastination from a silent thief of time into a powerful teacher of self-awareness and growth.